Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and for those who have not subscribed yet, please do. In this video, we are going to look at 4 ways that mummification wasn't necessary to connect to the afterlife. But the ancient Egyptians didn't understand these concepts. The first deception is the Egyptians thought that the body was one, that it is the first deception they had. The truth is, they are 4 bodies, 4 elements, 4 cycles, shaping every part of you, of their reality, but they didn't know it. Therefore, they mummify the body after one dies to preserve the physical body to be transported to the afterlife. But the fact is, they are 4 bodies that the ancient Egyptians didn't know about. So they were living in pieces, pulling them apart. So they were not quite in sync, and that is not accidental. They were seeing themselves as one being, one body, one mind, but that was the first deception. The truth, humans have 4 bodies, 4 elements, 4 cycles, shaping every part of human reality. And the great Egyptians didn't know how they worked together. That is why they felt they were going to be stuck on earth after they die. So they thought they were going to be disconnected from the afterlife, and their reality would be unfulfilled of everlasting life. So they were struggling against forces they can't see against the 4 elements: earth, water, air, fire, that aren't just outside of us human, but are inside of us. Our physical body is earth, your foundation, your vessel. Your emotional body is water, fluid, reactive, shaping our energy. Our mental body is air, beliefs, the architects of your reality. And spiritual body is fire, divine sparks, the source of our power. The same pattern is wrapped into the 4 seasons, the 4 gospels, the 4 directions. It was ancient knowledge hidden in plain sight that the ancient Egyptian missed, or what they call the great deception. The spiritual body, fire, is what propels human into the afterlife, according to most religion, including Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Hold these beliefs about the afterlife. Christianity believes in a literal heaven and hell, where souls are rewarded or punished externally based on the action and faith in Jesus Christ. Islam believes in an afterlife where souls are judged on the day of judgment. Judaism believes about the afterlife are diverse, but many believe in a world to come where the righteous are rewarded. Hindus believe in reincarnation, where souls are reborn into different form based on their own beliefs. Buddhists also believe in reincarnation, so the soul or the fire is what is one body that will never die. It is your soul out of your four bodies that will return to the afterlife. That is what the Creator is going to know you by in the afterlife, according to most world religion. So there was not a reason for the mummification of bodies by the ancient Egyptians, because the Creator is not asking for the physical body to return to Him, but it is your fire, your soul, He wants back in return for the passage to the afterlife. This was in plain sight, and yet the ancient Egyptians never figured out this. So why does this matter? When these four bodies are not sync, one's life feels like a constant battle. The ancient Egyptians' minds were telling them one thing, but their body was telling them another. In this video, I will break down how the four bodies led to the deception of the great Egyptians to mummify the bodies which was needed to connect to the afterlife according to their belief. But why did the Egyptians' life feel out of sync, like something were pulling them into different directions? Why did they feel stuck in loops, repeating the same struggle to connect to the afterlife, no matter how hard they try to understand, to break free from the one belief in the one body deception? Why did they feel trapped in this cycle of frustration and failure? The answer was right in front of them, but they were never meant to see it. They were thought to be one thing, a body, a mind, a person moving through time, but that was the first deception. They were not one, they were four. But those four forces inside them completely were out of alignment. That's why they felt drained. That's why their manifestation backfired. That's why no matter how they try to change and mummified their loved ones, some things always pull them back. But here is what they didn't know. When they retried to control the four bodies, if they could realign them, they could change their reality. They could command it, and each body's control a different part of their existence. And when they are out of sync, their reality felt chaotic. Let us break it down. The first body, the physical body, they are vassal. This is the body they know, flesh, muscles, bones, the temporary shell that carried them through the world while they were alive. When the soul departs, this body remain and return to the earth from which it came. But it is only the surface. It is only piece of a much larger system. It's the machine that moves you through life, and it is not needed in the afterlife. So there was no need for the great Egyptian, the ancient Egyptian, to preserve it through mummification. However, a machine is only as powerful as the energy that flows through it. And at that time, the great Egyptians seems they were running on low voltage. The vessels are like battery, one that is constantly being drained by the artificial system and thoughts around them at the time. Obsession with thoughts about the body go back to the earth where it came from fuel. The idea that if the body goes back to the earth where it came from when it rots, then how will the ancient Egyptian be transported to the afterlife without a physical body? So they disturbed the natural process that would take place after passing and mummify the body, a process made out of their belief that a person preserving their body was crucial for the soul, ka, to recognize it and return it in the afterlife. The process was to remove organs and preserve them, internal organs, except the heart, which was believed to hold the soul. But did this process trap the soul on earth or stop the earth's natural cycles that normally took place at one's passing? The ancient Egyptians' stress, fear, and anxiety were not only emotions but may have been additional stress on the body that tune it out of sync and send them into wild, delusional thoughts about mummification of bodies to secure a safe transportation to the afterlife. So that's probably why the bodies were kept in pristine condition. But the great Egyptians seems they could tune their four bodies back into its natural frequency. But the truth is, the more they align their physical body with the way back to travel to the afterlife, the more energy is trapped in the emotional body. Their creative force, their emotions aren't just feelings, they are energy and emotions. Their emotions aren't just feelings, they are energy and emotions, and energy was their currency of reality. But here is what the ancient Egyptians never knew, that water holds memory. It absorbed energy, carries vibration, and stores messages. In ancient traditions, water is blessed to hold divine intentions. In an experiment, rice soaked in water decays less than if not in water. Your body is over 70% water. Every thought, every word, every emotion imprint itself onto you, and you always, every emotion you feel make a vibration frequency that directly shape the ancient Egyptian reality. Fear, doubt, and guilt lower their frequency and turn them in a magnet for chaos. Love, gratitude, and joy, they elevate your frequency, aligning one with success, abundance, and sync one reality. So the ancient Egyptians were focusing on the body to transport them to the afterlife, that ultimately lead them not to receive success in the spirit, the fire that was only what they need to take them to the afterlife, because the journey to the afterlife is not a physical journey, but a journey that is propelled by the fire in your spirit. Therefore, the ancient Egyptians, as brilliant as they were repelling the physics of emotions that act as magnet, pulling the experience toward them, but they were repelling them unknowingly. What they feel most often, they were trapped. But here is the trapped. Most people don't control their emotions, including the ancient Egyptians. Their emotions control them. This attracts negativity from their emotions from other people around them to set themselves up for failure or decepting themselves. But if they did learn to direct their emotional energies, they could take back control and reprogram their water back to their body, their frequency, master their emotions, and master their hidden forces, shaping their life. The third body, the mental body, the mind, just only process reality, but it creates it ever belief, ever thought, ever idea. One soul inside one's mind shape the world they living in. But here is what was the problem most of the ancient Egyptians taught concerning how to travel to the afterlife. Were never there at the beginning. The fears they carry, planted by society around them at the time to keep them small, put doubts in their mind, interfered from others who never broke free. The limits they believe in instaured by a system that profits by their ignorance. One's mind is a radio, a receiver, constantly picking up signal from the world around you, and they were not tuned in consciously, so they unconsciously absorbed the mental noise of the masses, and fear of missing out of transported to the afterlife. So they have self-doubt. Real world proof is the power of the mind. Ever heard of the placebo effect? A doctor prescribed a patient a sugar pill, telling them it is a powerful drug. The patient takes it, and miraculously their symptoms disappear. Why? Because their belief of the treatment was enough to create a physical response to the body. Now, if the mind is powerful to heal your body, that belief alone, imagine what happened when you believe in your own potential. Your thoughts are not just promise, reflection of reality, but the blueprint to not doubt yourself, and you create failure before you even start. Believe in yourself, and reality will bend to match your eternity. Although the ancient Egyptians see opportunity in the obstacles they preserve to the afterlife, They went down a rabbit hole that created mummies to preserve their past, but it didn't transport them to the afterlife as intended. The fourth body, the spiritual body, fire, your connection to the infinite. This is the part that they fear the most. The part that is not bound by time, space, or limitation. The part that remembers where you truly are. This is the body that connects you to the higher dimension, present and not the physical body as the ancient great Egyptians thought that was needed to take them to the afterlife. This body takes one to the unseen forces and the blueprint to your ultimate potential. But here is where it gets spooky. Most people live in total chaos, like the ancient great Egyptians did, that they were trying to make a path to travel to the afterlife through the physical body as a vessel, but the body seeks comfort. One's emotion cover connections. The great ancient Egyptian minds were trapped in fear, and their spirit were asleep. It is like trying to drive a car where each wheel is spinning in a different direction. No wonder they felt lost. No wonder they struggled to break free from repeating cycles. No wonder the world is designed to keep them in this state of disorder. When all four bodies are misaligned, you are easily to be controlled, but the fire within your shadow and the hidden truth. Fire is destruction, fire is creation, and fire is also your shadow. Carl Jung called it the shadow self, the hidden suppressed part of your society. Tell you to reject your rage, your desires, your instinct. But here is what the ancient great Egyptians never knew. The fire they fear is the same fire that can set them free. Remember, the time they consume emotion, that their body is going to fade away and will never connect to the afterlife. They probably felt heat rising in their bodies, that they will lose their life in vain, because once they die and cannot make a safe travel to the afterlife, then life would be a loss for them. But that wasn't just their feelings, but that was their fire trying to wake them up. But they suppressed it. To be nice, to stay calm, to follow the rules. But do you know that the spiritual fire is not meant to be extinguished? It is meant to burn. Always the illusion. That fire is the key to their awakeness. Fear it, and they remain trapped. Harness it, and you become unstoppable. And breaking free from the mummified illusion would be the moment they activate all four bodies. They would break free from the illusion, because fire just destroyed it, purifies, and when your body, emotions, mind, and spirit align, there is no reason to play a game. One stop, creating, and the Game changes forever. Nothing in the universe is random. Everything follows a cycle, a pattern, a rhythm. You see it in the movements of the planet. You see it in the rise and fall of civilizations as history repeats itself in evenly perfect cycles. You see it in your own life where certain events and struggles return almost as scripted. But what if I told you the same seasonal cycles that control nature also control your soul? So, how the ancient Egyptians, who were ahead of their time, with excessive knowledge that led them to build the pyramids, could not see this, that led them to not align all of the four bodies, but most, if not all, of their concern was focused on the physical body that they needed to make the safe passage to the afterlife. So they create a master plan in creating mummies. As creative as mummies were, we can safely say that it is not needed to make a safe passage to the afterlife. Because of all of the four bodies that humans have, it is only one of those bodies that is totally indestructible. And that body is the spirit, the eternal life, the fire, your soul, that will journey back into the afterlife. Or, as I would mildly put it, your spirit, your last body, comes alive when your physical body reach its end of life. When all other of your three bodies are alive, when you are alive, your spirit is asleep, as you would say. R.I.P. When you are alive, your spirit is resting in peace. And when your three other bodies die, that's when your spirit is awakened and take the journey to the afterlife where it truly belongs. Hidden in the four seasons is a map or blueprint that guide one through the tour stage of spiritual awaken. A blueprint so powerful that when you understand it, you could predict exactly where you are and your journey and what coming next. Spring is the awakened air mind. This is where it all begins. Spring is the time of new life, new energy. It is the moment you wake up, when you realize the world is not what it seems, when you start questioning the illusion that you were raising with. The ancient Egyptian has the right question about how they get to the afterlife, but fell short with the answers, although they realized the world is not what it seems, and they did not start questioning the illusion they were raised with when their souls of enlightenment were planted in their minds. This is the phase, the mental body expanding. The mind is filled with ideas, with curiosity and a hunger to know more. But this was also the phase where they get stuck. They consume information, but they don't act correctly on it, because what they were looking for to take them to the afterlife was inside of them all the time. Their fourth body, the soul, the external fire. but they didn't act on it or act out of line with the divine cycle. They go into deep meditation and observation of natural preservation in the hot desert sands, where bodies sometimes remain remarkably intact. This led them to believe in the importance of preserving the body for the afterlife, and the ancient Egyptians believed in an afterlife where the soul needed a body to inhabit, so they developed mummification to preserve the body for this purpose. But pity they did not know that the soul is a body of its own, the fourth body, as I demonstrated in this video. Although they study the mysteries of the universe, but with fire to fuel the transformation, they never leave the spring. They never evolve, and this is why the next phase is crucial. Summer, the springs. Summer, the season of action, of passion, of battle, transformation. The knowledge you gain in spring, now you are being tested on it. You just know the truth, or can you like the truth? This is why summer is the season of struggle. The old word fight back. The old self cling to comfort. Everything around you is your growth. This is the phase where people lose their friends, where relationships fell apart, where career collapse, not because of you are failing, but because fire destroy what no longer makes sense to you. If you resist the fire, you will suffer. If you embrace the fire, you will ascend. So you can either judge of the Egyptian dynasty had suffer or ascend. But this is why most people wait in this stage and can't handle new knowledge, but they can't handle the loss of transformation. Only that who survive the fire move to the afterlife, the next stage, autumn, the fall of the full self, water, emotions. If summer was the battle, autumn is the aftermath. This is a season of reflection. Ego dies. The old identity fades. Everything that was once familiar feels distant. This is a phase where you feel lost, not because something is wrong, but because you are no longer who you used to be. This is the water phase, the emotion body in deep introspection. This lesson learned in spring now become wisdom. The fire you survive in summer now becomes clear, but many can't see and get stuck. Here is why. Because the ego tries to stay with the old identity, tries to return to the comfort of what it was. But if you try to go back, you will suffer, because the cycle cannot be reversed. The only way is forward. The only way is through the darkness. So the ancient Egyptians need to get out of the darkness, and with mummification they remain in the darkness. Winter is the dark night of the soul. This is where everything disappears. Your desire, attachment, even your very sense of self. Winter is when the old world dies and the new world has not yet begun. So the ancient Egyptians, through mummification, were trapped in winter, although Their climate is much more like summer, but they were trapped in the winter all the time through mummification, seeking a path to the afterlife and a safe passage for the soul to the afterlife. This is the earth phase when your physical body must integrate all that it has learned. The mind has expanded, the spirit has passed, the emotion has purity. Now you are preparing for rebirth, but here is the secret most people fear: the void, the mistake, the emptiness for failure. The void is not the end, it is the beginning. If the ancient great Egyptian had only known that they can't control the end as what we thought it is, and if they had known that there is no help of mummification is needed, because the end is not the end but the beginning. Because before something can reborn, it must return to nothing. And the cycle repeat. Every year the earth repeat these seasons, and so does human. The cycle has repeated for your entire life. Every challenge we face, they have pharaohs and gods of everything we can imagine, but this is why understanding the cycles changes everything, because the ancient Egyptians did not know where they were, so they could not predict what comes next after they die. But if they could resist life, they could flow with it. They never knew this, that they were distracted with their modern life, which keep them chaotic and stressed. Building pyramids, weapons, medicine, conquering Canaan, yet they weren't aligned with the cycle. They never reached spiritual mastery, and if they never reached spiritual mastery, they stayed controllable by their own deception. But if they did see the pattern, they could break free and stop forcing, stop struggling, and render to the flow, and reality would bend in their favor, because they would no longer fight in the universe and creating mummies, but they would be moving with it. And the Bible, whether you read it literally or not, the story of Jesus, the miracles, the parables, but not just historical events, but a blueprint for your own spiritual awakening. And what if I told you the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are not just teaching, but are esoteric books to master the consciousness? Every ancient spiritual system, Kabbalah, alchemy, works with the four elements, and so does the biblical text. The Gospels represent a different aspects of our beings, and when we understand this, we will know that Jesus wasn't just a man, but a symbol of our soul. Mark, fire, spiritual body. Mark is the gospel of action, the fastest moving, the most intent. It is fire, passion. This gospel shows Jesus as a force of will, a divine being, in constant motion, taking action, creating miracles, as the Egyptian wise men created miracles when they create snake with their staff, with the clash with Moses and Yahweh. But what is fire? The spirit of the body. The fire in you is the soul with power, this part of us that know our purpose and take action, but without discipline, fire can become destructive. So is this why the great ancient Egyptians were led to deception because of their lack of discipline? So the art is not to let the fire become destructive, but to use it to master the art within. The lesson the ancient Egyptians never conquer out of all things was to control their spirit, so their spirit controlled them. Matthew is our mental body. The Gospel of Matthew is full of teaching, parables, wisdom. It is about understanding that our thought, intellect, the mind, and what is the mental body. It is the designer of our mental body. This is why Jesus in Matthew speak in parables. He is activating the higher mind. He is teaching hidden truths to those who are ready to understand. This is why the Gospel of Matthew said, "He who has ears to hear, let him hear." Not because Jesus was speaking nonsense, but because not everyone was ready for the truth. The less your mind is your most powerful weapon, learn how to use it. Even though if the Gospels were after the great ancient Egyptians dynasty, this surely had some teaching in their time because they were not ordinary men. The Gospel of John is mystic. It speaks of love, emotions, the unseen, force of the universe, water, the emotion of the heart, the subconscious. And what is the emotional body? It is the magnet of reality. This is why in the Gospel of John, Jesus said, "He who believes in him, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water." Water is emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. Jesus didn't just perfect miracles. He talked them into existence. When he turned water into wine, it wasn't about alcohol. It was about transforming emotions, turning lower emotion water into higher state of consciousness. Some things the ancient Egyptians lack in their time. The lesson: one's emotion are the force that sharpen the mind. Master it, or it will master you. The Gospel of Luke is the most, if you understand it, it focuses on Jesus as the healer, a teacher, a physical presence. It is earth, the body, the physical world, practical action. And what is the physical body? It is the foundation of everything. This is why in Luke, Jesus speaks of health and healing because the physical body is the temple of the soul, and this is why Mormon society don't poison the body with toxic environment. Live off stress is an exaggeration that object if ancient Egyptians wondering how they are going to the afterlife when they have to do nothing but to know that they are four bodies and come out of the self-imposed deception. Their earth elements were weak, so their mind, emotion, and spirit suffer. The lesson: master your body and master your vessel for spiritual growth. But the biggest secret of the four Gospels is that the four Gospels are not separate stories. They are one story told by four different perspectives because they represent your Mark represent the spirit, which is action and will. Matthew represent the mind, which is thought and knowledge. John represent the connection, which is the heart and intuition. Luke represent the body, which is the physical world, and Jesus, he is the soul, the center of it, the part that must unify the four bodies into one, because when one does this, one becomes a living Christ, not in a religious sense, but in a spiritual, esoteric, cosmic sense. You become a master of your reality. You become like God in human form, the final revelation. This is why in the Bible, Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you, not outside, not in a church, not in a mummy, inside of you, because the four bodies, the four gospels, and the four elements, they are reflections of your consciousness. You are the Son of God, because the Son is the soul, and the soul is you. Everything you being taught about reality is a lie. You were told that the universe is made of matter. Everything is solid, physical solid, and separate. But the ancient know the truth. So powerful, so reality shattered. But it was hidden for centuries. Reality is not made of matter. It is made with energy. Every thought, every word, every action carries a frequency, and those who understand how to control energy, control reality. And that is what the great Egyptians lack of. They let reality control them by their own deception. This is the true power behind the ancient mystery school, the pyramids, the secret societies. They know something we don't until now, and this is the unseen blueprint of reality, the energy that laws. The universe speak on laws, not human-made laws, like making mummies to travel to the afterlife, but cosmic laws and principles. To master these laws, and you can bend reality. But the ancient Egyptians tried to bend reality with mummies, but it did not work out because looters are destroying the mummies at or in the pyramids or at the Valley of the Kings, leaving the ancient Egyptians without their vessel to travel to the afterlife, which they need a physical body, which is their mummies, to accompany the spirit, or the spirit need to use as a vessel to travel to the afterlife. So ignore them and you become a prisoner in your own existence. Let's break them down. The law of vibration. Everything is energy. Nothing existence is truly still. Not your body, not your thoughts, not even the solid objects around you. The chair you're sitting on right now. Everything is in a constant state of emotion, vibrating at its own frequency. This isn't just a spiritual idea. It is an ancient truth hidden in the Hermetic teaching, later confirmed by modern science. The Kabbalion secret text, Hermetic's philosophy, states nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. This is the law of energy, the fundamental truth that reality is not made of matter but frequency. Tesla understood this when he said, if you want to find the secret of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Quantum physics confirmed this. The double slit experiment proved that particles change behavior based on observation. This is why fear vibrates low. It keeps the ancient Egyptian trapped, stuck, unable to create. Why they fear how their spirit is going to be transported to the afterlife. Love vibrate high. It expands your energy field, aligning you with opportunities. But gratitude is the ultimate frequency. It reprograms reality to work in your favor. But here is the secret the ancient Egyptians didn't know. The Schumann resonance shows how the earth itself vibrates at a frequency 7.83 hertz, a frequency that is currently affects human consciousness. This is why monks and others mediate at this frequency. It aligns them with the natural energy field of the planet. And here is where the deception comes in. The elites, rulers, elders, and hidden powers understand vibration. That's why laws keep you in fear and bombard them with conflict. They lower their frequency so their mind was controlled. Because here is the truth. A low vibration being cannot manifest a high vibration reality. Energy, it is never lost, only transferred when you live in fear, like the ancient great Egyptian did, of how their spirit will travel to the afterlife with their bodies. When they lived in fear, doubt, and anger, your energy is handicapped and not harvested. They amplify negativity because it fuels them. That is why one must guard their frequency. Don't be like the ancient Egyptians. Warning, master this. Low frequency. Train yourself to rise above the moment you reclaim your vibration. They lose control. Your thoughts, words, and emotions are all vibrations. What you vibrate, you attract. This is why they keep you in fear and scarcity, because of low frequency blocks higher realities. You see why the ancient Egyptians flooded themselves with fear of entering the afterlife? No. Their vibration determines their destiny. Master it and you break free. The law of energy exchange. Nothing is free. Here is what no one told them. Energy is the real currency of the universe. Not money, not gold, not pyramids, not mummies. Energy is everything and is an exchange when you give your attention to something. You give it energy. When you let people drain you with drama, you are being robbed of energy. When you invest your focus in creation, you multiply energy. Did they look at the world around them? What was designed to steal their attention, thinking endlessly about the afterlife, feeding that algorithms instead of themselves. Fear, the base of travel to the afterlife, drain their energy, keeping them anxious, reactive, and easy to control. Low vibrational thoughts designed to weaken their body, keeping the sluggish dependent and disconnected from higher awareness. They were feeding the system of fear, and the system was feeding on them. No wonder why they were exhausted after a pointless argument, why they felt drained after binge thinking of mindless content that leaves them falling apart, empty. But time spent creating something fulfilling would leave them energized. Because energy exchange is always happening. Now ask yourself, where is the energy going? Because if they did understand this, how everything changes, they would stop playing the game of creating mummies and stop reacting and giving their power away. And suddenly the system loses control over you. The law of words language is spell covering. Why do you think it is called spellings? Because words are spell. This is why mantras, prayers, and affirmation are so powerful. When you speak something, you are not just saying it, you are commanding reality to take shape. Think about it. Did the ancient Egyptians try to speak mummies into reality, them into reality, or because of the lack of reality that the body is four and not one? As they taught then, they could not bend reality, even if they were, say, these mummies will take us to the afterlife, but their bodies remain in the pyramids and at the Valley of the Kings even today. Did they create a false reality? What if they did say in abundance, the humans have four bodies? With that power that they had, would they be unstoppable? Reality would have no choice but to align with those words, because the universe doesn't hear what you want, but it hears what you are, the law of sacred geometry and code of the universe. Look around you, the ancient pyramids, the spirals of galaxies, the twin helix of your DNA. Everything follows a code, sacred geometry. This is coincidence? It is the blueprint of creation. What if the ancient Egyptian could have cracked the code of travel to the afterlife itself? Look at the mystery schools, Freemasons, and ancient architects. All know this. That's why they build temples, cathedrals, and monuments using divine proportions. When structures are built in harmony with these ratios, they generate energy fields that amplify power. Was this what the ancient Egyptians lacked? The energy fields that would amplify power to propel them to the afterlife? Ever wonder why certain places feel different? Why walking into a Gothic cathedral give you this even if you didn't follow religions? Why ancient pyramids, stones, circles, and temples still radiates energy? Lots of years later, why some buildings feel oppressive while others feel uplifting? It is not just aesthetics, it is frequency. The Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio, the signature of creation. The golden ratio 1.618 appears in everything from the proportion of the Great Pyramid to the pattern of your heartbeat. It is the petals of flower, the shells of snails, even the stock market cycles. The same ratio exists in our body. Was this the dimension that the ancient great Egyptian could not get to achieve safe travel to the afterlife? Brain generate geometric patterns. The breath aligns with sacred rhythm. Why? Do you think deep breathing shifts consciousness? This is why meditation, postures, mudras, and breathwork unlocking higher states. They align one's body with the secret geometry of the universe. Where did the ancient Egyptian lost these techniques within the universe? Was it before the building of the Great Pyramid or after? When they focus on the body to mummify it, did they know that the body is not only flesh, but a living, breathing structure of divine mathematics, the code of reality, and those who understand it shape the world and reality? But did they unlock energy most people never access when they build the pyramid? Why do you think the ancient Egyptian lost this knowledge? Because if they remember how to control energy, they would be impossible to control. But they fumbled the ball and using mummies as access to the afterlife. In reality, the elites use this knowledge for their own benefits. They understand how to shape reality, how to direct consciousness, how to manipulate energy to build empires, while the masses are kept distracted, disempowered, decimated. But here is the truth, and once you see it, you can never go back. But how to use this knowledge to reprogram reality, even after they know the laws? How comes they couldn't apply them when mummified the body? Did they forget to apply them by not following these steps? 1. Control their vibration. What they consume, food, music, etc., affects their energy. They didn't filtering out low frequency distractions. Step 2. Speak with intention. Never say, I'm tired, I'm broke. Speak unity, words of power. Step 3. Guard their energy exchange. Stop feeding to negativity, to focus their energy only on what builds them. Step 4. Align with sacred geometry. Spend time in nature. mediating spaces built with divine proportions. Step 5. Use reality as a mirror because something was off in their life, because they could not feel their own vibration, so they could adjust their energy and watch reality shift. Because reality of mummies taking the soul to the afterlife is not or wasn't happening to them. Reality is responding to them because the universe is not separate from them. It is an extension of your own consciousness. And the moment you take control of your energy, you take control of your entire existence. Ever thought one takes, it generates energy. Energy is the most valuable resource in the universe. And just like physical energy can be harvested from the earth, oil, water, electricity, our life force is being harvested now and from the beginning of time, because the elites of that time and the rulers, pharaohs, they didn't want anyone to use energy to create their own reality. They want to redirect it to fuel their system. This is to manipulate energy by these methods: mental programming, the mind. Your thoughts are not random, they are instilled into us. The so-called education system teaches us what to think, not how to think. The pharaohs use men to fill the people's minds with fear and distractions, so they obey, conform, and never question why. Because the mind is the control panel of reality, and if they can program the mind, they control the narrative. Solutions stop positively consuming into question. Everything programmed their belief to serve you, not the system. Emotional manipulation. Water in the heart. The emotions are the most powerful creative force in the universe. They dictate what you attract, what you repel, and what you experience. So the ancient Egyptians bend to wrong emotions and deflect from the right emotions. That is the body, is 4 in 1. Mummies were a control of feelings that led to what they create. Solutions masters one's emotions. Stop reacting and start observing should have been the mantra, and they would learn to transmute fear of not having a safe passage to the afterlife of the soul would turn into power, spiritual suppression on the soul. Fire the soul. One spirit is the source of unlimited power and is truly infinite. The soul is the part of humans that remembers the truth, the part that knows we are divine. And this is why every major institutions, religions, government, corporation works to disconnect you from it. And it was no difference in the Pharaoh's time. Religions tell you that God is separate from you. Schools teaches only the material world and deny the unseen, or should I say the seen. The system keeps you exhausted, destructured, and uninspired, so you never see higher knowledge. Because if you catch fire or ignite your spiritual fire, you become free and stop seeking validation from external systems, and realize you have your own source of creation. Meditation, breath work, and inner silence that the ancient Egyptians lacked, and stop looking for saviors and ignite your own spiritual fire through direct experience. Physical enslavement. Earth, the body, is the foundation of one's entire system. But if the body is weak, toxic, or unbalanced, the mind, emotions, and spirit suffer. This is why the ancient Egyptians knew about the spiritual body but could not connect it to its own body, and they were enslaved by their own deception that lower their vibration and pollute the bodily water through their pineal gland, which is our third eye. Earth represents stability, foundation, and material form. It is the ground beneath our feet, the mountains that reach to the sky, the soil that nurture life. In reality, shaping Earth's energy helps manifest ideas into physical reality. By connecting with Earth, we learned to build lasting change, to bring our vision into solid form, and bring movement through and communication. It is the breath that fills our lungs, the wind that spreads seeds across vast distance, the space between all things, working with air energy, teaches us about the power of the mind and intention. Fire transforms, purifies, and ignites action, and the sparks of inspiration, the flame of passion, the heat of transformation. Fire energy fuel change and burn away what no longer serves us. Through fire, we learned about the creative force that reshapes reality according to our will. Water flows, cleanses, and connects all life. It is the blood in our veins, the rain that nourishes the land, the vast ocean that covered our planet. Water energy shows us how to move with change rather than against it. It teaches wisdom and helps sense the subtle currents that move through reality. These elements don't exist in isolation. They dance together in endless combinations. A plant needs earth to root, and water to drink, air to breathe, and fire from the sun to grow. Just like nature, we can use all four elements to shape our reality. Start with earth by getting clear of what you want to create. Build a story foundation through practical planning and preparation. Use here to spread your intention and into the world through words, visualization, and clear thinking. Let fire start action and burn obstacles in your way. Flow like water, staying flexible as you move towards your goal. The elements also mirror stages and manifestation. First comes the fire of inspiration and initial energy. Then air refines the idea through thoughts and planning. Water helps us connect emotionally with our vision and go with the flow of creation. Finally, earth brings all into physical form. Reality shaping works best when we balance all four elements. So why the ancient great Egyptian mummies could not traverse them to the afterlife? Because they were only thinking about one element, and that is the body as a vehicle to transport their spirit to the afterlife, the fire to the afterlife. However, the spirit is already in the afterlife, and the preservation of the body through mummification is just here as a great accomplishment, but not the intended accomplishment that they were made for. Too much fire make our reality shattered without results. Too much earth without air leaves them stuck and inflexible. Too much water without fire dilutes their power to create change. Too much oxygen without water disconnect them from their feelings and intuition. They didn't learn to recognize which elements they naturally needed in order to make the transition from earth to the afterlife.